A little recap on yesterday. James Peatling yesterday told the Giants he wanted to trade to Adelaide.
Yes.
It's a 4-year offer from the Crows, I believe. So they got another one, the Crowies. They got him to pair with Isaac Cumming. And really the Giants, who we've mentioned at times, but really need to properly acknowledge the fact that this is an exodus at GWS, a proper exodus. So Peatling goes, Cumming goes, Perryman goes, Wade Dirksen is trying to go. They're digging in on him, the Giants. Nick Haynes will go to Carlton possibly today. No problems there. Xavier O'Halloran in contract, but considering his options ahead of a potential move to the Western Bulldogs. And this is why the report from Mitch Cleary, I think, last night makes, well, I would have thought a bit of sense. I'm not sure if this is, let's just throw this out there. Let's get to the right match. Let's see if Salty Bulldogs are up and about early this morning with the right match.
on?
Is this the right match? So Dylan Shield being courted by the Giants ahead of a potential reunion. I'm not sure how often this has happened over the journey. You go back to where it all began, but it does make a bit of sense, I think. He's got a year to run. He could have easily been a St Kilda player this year. He's remained open to a move should one present Dylan Shield. And with everything going on, maybe as many as 7 players leaving the Giants, could it be the right match for Dylan Shield to go back, or is he still going to be down the pecking order of midfielders there?
Yeah, I mean, you need a lot of them, though, don't you? Like, so someone will get injured. We've seen what's happened with Cornelio, so it's not as if you say, okay, is he going to be in your starting group of centre square players for round 1 next year? Probably not. But is there going to be injuries along the way, and is he a good chance to play 15, 16, 17 games and be able to impact? He probably is, and they're just probably looking for any win that they can get at the moment, the Giants. Like, this is a side that is not rebuilding. Like, they're ready to go. In terms of missing out on the opportunity this year, they would be the team that's kicking themselves the most after the lead they had against both the grand finalists. So this isn't a rebuild team. This isn't, okay, we'll get these players going, we'll get some draft picks and we'll go again. They're good to go now. Like, prelim final last year, what they did this year, it's not as if they're looking to go back. So they need to bring in some experience and some depth to that group. So I don't love it, but I don't hate it because it's not going to cost them a whole lot, and Dylan's probably looking for an extra year in his contract to give him an extra year's security, and he'll be backing himself in because he's an absolute professional. You know, he's going to be terrific in the locker room. He's not going to be a distraction. He's going to train hard. He's going to set good standards for the young players. So in terms of a fit, the way that he plays, I don't love it, but in terms of the character that he is and maybe the impact that he can have and the depth that he provides, yeah, maybe it is the right match.
And there's a little bit of desperation from
Maybe.
GWS, because then you read reports, I wish I could credit who, I'm not sure who first mentioned this, but there is an interest in Jake Stringer as well from a GWS perspective. So is it just getting all a little bit desperate up there, the Giants?
Might be what you have to do, though. I mean, because the premierships are hard to win when you feel like you've got a squad that is ready to go. They've had enough draft picks come through. They've got pick 14 at the moment as it stands. They've got pick 34. They'll get a couple of good players there. And then whatever they get back, I'm not sure how fierce they're going to haggle with these players that are departing. Obviously, Perryman's a free agent, so that remains to be seen how that works today. But yeah, they'd be angry, though. Have we heard from Dave Matthews? Like, he's usually good and usually generous with his time and speaks the truth and speaks honestly. He's done it before when players like Jeremy Cameron have left and they really put their flag in the ground with that one and matched the bid and then forced the trade, which they did as well as they possibly could have done out of it. But yeah, I think Adam Kingsley, Dave Matthews would be angry. Still waiting on Brett Montgomery as well. There's been like really important senior assistant coach and right-hand man to Adam Kingsley. Some reports earlier this year that he's going to join Adelaide. I haven't heard the latest on that one. So yeah, a lot of change at the Giants.
Yeah, let's put the request in for Dave Matthews, perhaps. And I saw you found the audio of Toby Green, that non-politically correct best of Fairest speech. We did, yeah. Come back fresh, don't come back fat. And I didn't realise there was a drive-by for one of his teammates as well. He threw in there. Sorry, was it sorry, Briggsy? And he said, sorry, that was harsh. Speaking of best and Fairest, now the Melbourne... there's a text here. Sam, is there any update on Clayton Oliver to Geelong? Oh, geez, this is Demons just got round-the-clock meetings on this at the moment. So goodness. The Melbourne Best and Fairest, the Keith Bluey Truscott Medal, is tonight. So will Clayton Oliver attend, I think, is the question here. And if he doesn't, what sort of signal does that potentially send? Now, yesterday, that Cinch Footy on Instagram, I'm not sure if you follow them, Kane, they had a post of a tweet from your man Goss, Tim Gossage, and the tweet was something like, big day for Geelong, Clayton Oliver wants in, Bailey Smith wants in, Jack Martin is heading there. Now then Sench had an image of Chris Scott shopping at Cotton On. They had Stanley's Farm TV show advert sort of a thingy, and it was liked by Bailey Smith, and it was also liked by Clayton Oliver as well. So it's all happening. The players are loving it. And there's plenty to thrash out. Even if Melbourne are having kittens at the moment, some people are enjoying it.
It is good. Does he? I mean, you've always had great information in and around Melbourne. When you say there's meetings around the clock, what is going? Are they happy with how this has played out? Are they?
No, I imagine they're absolutely horrified.
But isn't this the drastic measure that this needed? Like this is never going to be an easy. Okay, we're going to trade. This has got like Treloar, Grundy written all over it. Like that's how.
Has it though?
That's
because
how
Treloar,
messy this is.
So Collingwood have been mentioned here as a comparison from a positive point of view, a silver lining, if you like. Given Collingwood was able to pivot, reset, and win a premiership, right? But they got good reward for those players who left. Like Adam Treloar might have been pushed out, but they still got 14 for him.
I think it was. Yeah, I read Jay Clark's piece in the Herald Sun yesterday.
Yeah, it was a good piece
yesterday. It was, and everyone's doing some good coverage of this. But I'm more in that camp, as you know, than I am in the other one. So I don't think this is going to be the worst thing for Melbourne. You're going to have to cop your bullets right now. And the Melbourne fans, from what I've seen and just the snippets on social media, they're furious.
Yeah, they're
living. But is this the way? Is this the only way that it would have played out? There was never going to be an easy way to trade one of your best players, if not your best player.
I think you want a price befitting of the player at his best, and they're not going to get within a bull's roar of that. And we know the reason why. It's buyer beware. We get that. So there's an element of Clayton that's damaged goods, like it or hate it. That's just the facts. So Melbourne are dealing with potentially having massive egg on their face here if Clayton can get himself back on track. So we know the situation. They're not going to get full freight for him. And I think that's the bit that's causing them some serious angst. Do they cut the cord now and get, I think Jay turned it as 50 cents on the dollar? Or do they keep him for another year and risk him, blowing the club up when he's not happy next year and then get 30 cents on the dollar in 12 months' time?
If I was Melbourne and if we managed to pull off the trade for Clayton Oliver, and if we get a future first-round draft pick and you get rid of all of his salary cap. So I know there's a lot of ifs there, but that's not that unrealistic to think that it's a future first pick.
If you get rid of all of his money.
Geelong pick up most of his money. Maybe Jay sort of suggesting that Melbourne may pay $200,000, Clayton Oliver takes a $200,000 pay cut, and Geelong pick up the rest. I know that would be very generous of Clayton to do that. But then if you're Melbourne, don't you just turn your eye to the unbelievable crop of free agents next year? And I'm all in on Luke Davies-Uniacke. So if you were Melbourne and you got rid of Clayton Oliver this year, but you landed Luke Davies-Uniacke with that money for free at the end of next year, would you be happy with that? Would you be sad if you got Cam Rayner? If you were just all in on one of these superstar, and there are some superstars on this list of free agents next year.
Are you kidding? If you could guarantee me that LDU walks in the door in 12 months' time, which no one can possibly do, but if you could, it's a significant upgrade.
So this is how you can turn this into a silver lining for Melbourne. So they've
but if you're Luke Davies-Uniacke, you're looking at Melbourne like Dan Houston.
I know, but he's at North Melbourne right now. Like it's a pretty easy sell to go to Melbourne.
I think everything we hear is that he's really happy at North Melbourne and he sees the upside and he can see the future.
But I understand, but that was just one name I picked. But there are some great names, and you can start now, and you can get your culture and your footy department and everything around. Do you need a new coach? I don't know, but
I like it.
What you're going to do to that's the way that you do it. If you're Melbourne, you use that money to go all in for one of the great free agents.
Just a reset. Like, I know we've danced around it so many times, but how galling is it that Melbourne would win that premiership? And like every premiership side, they're thinking dynasties, and the players are all thinking and talking about winning multiple premierships. And just seemingly 5 minutes later, you've got your two best players wanting to play for other clubs. Now, Christian Petrarca's ultimately staying, and Clayton Oliver wants to move down the high. It's amazing how fast it's unravelled.
I need someone to write a book, like a warts and all book. I'm not sure who the right person to write the book would be. Send us a text of who you think is the right author for the book, 0426 307 511 for IMAR, trusted by tradies for insurance.
What a book it would
IMAR. It'd be a great book. But
unauthorised by Melbourne FC.
It's a great lesson, though, isn't it, of how quickly things can unravel after winning a premiership. And as we discussed yesterday with Brisbane, there's pitfalls everywhere when you win a premiership. Like they call it the disease of more in American sports. Like, I want more money. I want to play midfield. I want this. I want more social. I want more endorsements. And then all of a sudden you start thinking about yourself more so than the team, and then things can unravel pretty quickly.
It's just horrifying, isn't it? Now, speaking of the best and fairest, we had 3 last night. Let's start with Geelong. The Carjagrews medal was on, and actually just on Clayton Oliver, Tom Stewart, so one of the players who met with Clayton Oliver on Tuesday at Reece Stanley's farm, he stopped on the way in to speak to Channel 7 before the count. And they were all pretty open. Cam Guthrie stopped and spoke about it as well, but all answered it, appropriately. That's above my pay grade, yada, 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 but pretty open about it, Kane.
Yeah, no, mature, and that's what good footy. I think respectfully so as well. Like, there was nothing that they clearly understand that he's contracted at Melbourne. It's going to take a lot to get the deal done, but that's what you should do as a player. It's good media training. If you're asked the question, just answer it honestly. You don't have to give everything away and the full details around what was said and how the meeting went and what Clayton Oliver's attitude was like. But just say, yeah, we want to get better, and that's what Geelong have done so well.
Just before we get to the count itself, Paddy Dangerfield and Chris Scott had a half-an-hour couch sit-down on the stage. Danger interviewed him. Half an hour it went for. I sat down and watched it in its entirety, and I got to about 24 minutes in. Now, have a listen to this. This was the coach. This was the coach talking not specifically about Clayton or anything player-wise, but just generally. But was he talking about a philosophy and how they're approaching Clayton Oliver? This is Chris Scott last night.
We need to think laterally about how we improve. And I think Craig also mentioned it before. We need to be open to risk. And I think the one thing we can guarantee our people is that we will never take any risk that has a potential to completely blow up our football club. Like that is our responsibility. But if we are going to succeed, we need to be at the margin a little bit with our strategy. So that's amazingly exciting. Like, it's just, but it's daunting as well, because when you take risks, you've got to be open to the fact that it might not work, and we might have to wear that.
Thoughts?
Well, exactly that. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think, and they have done that. They've done that with Tyson Stengel, and once again, top 5 in the best and fairest last night, even with the drama that he caused them late in the year, and the poor prelim final that he had. And they had a go at Jake Stringer a few years ago, I think, didn't they, Sammy? So that I think they believe that some of the best and most talented players aren't perfect. And we've seen that over the journey of football, and they're willing to back their culture in and
wear a bit of it too.
Yeah, and willing to say that we've got enough model citizens around them to guide them, and hopefully they fit in and buy into the culture, albeit they're not going to be perfect, because it's pretty hard to do it any other way. Like, when you have the success that they have had, you're not rebuilding like Brisbane have done through the draft. You're not going right down the bottom and then taking 6 years to slowly come back up. It's just not the model that they have.
No, he discussed that in that speech last night as well. They got no intention of doing that.
And I'd love that if I was a Geelong. I'd absolutely love if I was a Geelong fan rocking up for round 1, knowing that you're a real shot to win the whole thing once again. It may work, it may not, but towards the business end, you know that you're going to be around the mark.
So top 10 of the Cargie, Max Holmes won it. Zach Guthrie, what a rise from Zach Guthrie. They've been so patient with him. He was second. Jeremy Cameron was third. Tom Stewart fourth. Tyson Stengel, you mentioned, fifth. And then the top 10 was rounded out by Brian Myers, Ollie Dempsey, Ollie Henry, Brad Close, and the captain Patrick Dangerfield was 10th.
Oh, yeah, a great season for Holmes. Disappointing finish for it, and I mean, that's what they've done well. There's
a deep 10.
Like Guthrie's, he's not an old player, is he? Like they've got enough coming through to have another go. Brisbane's was interesting, a really tight count for the Lions.
Essendon, the Crichton was also on. We'll work our way north. Zach Merritt took it out. Surprise, surprise, Kane. That's his 5th best and fairest, second consecutive. So that puts him alongside some absolute greats of that club. James Hird won 5. So only Dick Reynolds and Bill Hutchison ahead with 7. So I did see something where Zach Merritt has not finished outside the top 4 of that best and fairest for the entirety of his career.
Amazing
Going
record.
Back to, 2014 or something?
Yeah, first year was 2014. And he's only 20, he's about to turn 29. And he's spoken this year about the fact that everything he does is designed to basically play for as long as he can. So you could easily see him playing until he's 35, and what's he got, 6? I mean, it's not unrealistic to think he could win 10, but he's probably saying, I don't really care about best and fairest now. I've won enough. I need to be winning finals and winning premierships.
Yep. So Nick Martin was second. Sam Durham, what a rise. Third, rounded out the podium, and this was the rest of the top 10. So Andy McGrath, Jai Caldwell was fifth. What a recruit he's proven to be. Ben Mackay was sixth. Kyle Langford. And then the bottom three, Mason Redmond, Jake Stringer was ninth. Harry Jones was 10th.
Yeah, I mean, Durham is a star. So I'm so glad he got rewarded in third position. But there's some disappointment. I think Ben Mackay started the season well, completely dropped off with what they've invested in him. He needs to be better than that, needs to finish strongly. Langford has form dipped this year compared to what he did last year, but hard to be critical of the position that he plays. And the rest aren't really a surprise, to be honest, but they need some young ones pushing up and finishing high up. I think Perkins is one that has really got to be targeting sort of a top 7 finish next year if the Bombers are going to get that improvement that they need.
Brisbane Lions, best and fairest. What does it look like for a premiership side? So this is the Merritt Murray Medal. Take us through it, Kane, because, again, probably no surprise for the winner, but it was tight.
It was really tight. So Lachie Neale won, and in terms of honours, right up there in football is winning a premiership. Winning a best and fairest in a premiership year. And so to do that, I mean, best and fairest that you win in poor sides, you don't really remember them, and there's not that much to be proud about. But to win one when your team has won the whole thing is extraordinary. So he's done that. It's his fourth best and fairest there. What a resume Lachie Neale has got. Dane Zorko, terrific, like All-Australian, 35 years of age, has signed on again. Who knew that he could produce a season like that? And Josh Dunkley was third, so only 2 votes separated first to third. McCluggage was fourth. Wilmot, a terrific season, top 5. Leicester was 6th. Harris Andrews, 7th. Berry, Danaher, which we'll get to shortly. The Big O and Cam Rayner tying for 10th position. But so all those 10 players probably good enough to win a best and fairest in a bottom 4 side. Like that's how hard they are to win in a premiership team.
Ryan Lester's good value for money, isn't he?
Is he going to get a 2-year deal? Surely.
I don't think he's had a 2-year for ages.
Yeah, he needs
I think he's been a one after one after one, but it's working. Anyways, he's finished 6th, as you're saying. Darcy Wilmot, amazing season to finish 5th in a premiership side as well.
The team that is in the hot seat is the Adelaide Footy Club. So they have got James Peatling, who has nominated Adelaide. We saw that yesterday. So 24 years of age, almost coming to the prime of his career. And I really like him as a player. I think excellent get for the Crows to be able to get him. And they'll be thrilled with that. They're also getting Isaac Cumming, of course, going to pay a big price to get him and Alex Neil-Bullen. So they're just all in. So in terms of the hot seat, we cannot accept, or Adelaide supporters cannot accept anything other than probably a finals win next year. This isn't a group that is rebuilding. This is year 6 of a rebuild. Haven't played finals for 7 years. They're running it back with all the veterans. They're all there again. So Taylor Walker's going to get the superannuation year. Brodie Smith's going to be there. Laird's going to be there. They're all going to be there. This is a group that is no longer rebuilding. So patience at Adelaide should absolutely have run out, and the expectation on them with the 3 players that they are bringing in. So Neil-Bullen, closer to 30 than he is 25. Cummings in the prime of his career. You'll pay a big price to get him, and Peatling at the age of 24. It's not a young group anymore. They've been really aggressive trade, bringing Dawson in, bringing Isaac Rankin in, having a crack at a few last year that missed. So I think Crows fans, and I'm interested to hear from them just how they feel about this season. They'd be thrilled with the players that they're getting in. I like all 3 of them. I think they're going to add real running power, depth and versatility to the lineup. And they're at the right age, particularly Peatling, and coming to come in and make an impact. But the big but with that, it adds significant pressure onto your group to now perform, because this is not a group that's rebuilding. The rebuilding days are completely over. In fact, they should have been over 2 years ago, and to finish bottom 4 last year was unacceptable, and anything other than winning a final this year would be the pass score for the Adelaide Football Club, I would think. Good man.
Just had to take a phone call.
That's okay.
I actually think, just off the back of this phone call, and I know you're full flight on Kenny Hinkley, I think the Clayton Oliver stuff's about to get shut completely down.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, there's no... how could you make a guarantee?
What a mess.
We're talking at 20 to 8 Eastern, but I think there's a very real chance that, in fact, it's the most likely outcome at the moment, that at the best and fairest tonight, Melbourne are going to get up and shut this down completely, is the expectation. That they've had a look and they've done some tie kicking.
Again.
But, again, which they're entitled to do, and Clayton's done that a bit himself, but such is the difficulty of the contract, and to get fair compensation, like we were talking about as well, it just doesn't make it possible. Plausible, acceptable, it just can't be done. I think the feeling is internally that they can fall back in love again with the player and the player with them. So they're going to, at this stage again, at 20-8, there's been a lot of meetings on this all day yesterday, the day before. They've had all the same conversations we've been having around, well, do you cut the cord now? Can you put the toothpaste back in the tube? All those sort of things they've been having. And ultimately, they've settled now, as I say, at 20-8 Eastern on the fact that Clayton Oliver will be going nowhere, and they'll hold him, and they think they can make it work.
So, Dees fans, let us know your thoughts. 1300 23 55 48. Your two best players, or two of your three best players, have had issues with the club. And at one point, 24 hours ago, Clayton Oliver had his head around playing for a different football club and sounded like all in and excited by that prospect. You're not driving down to Geelong and going out to Reece Stanley's farm and having multiple meetings if you're not seriously thinking about leaving. So the way that Melbourne have handled this, I mean, is just beggars belief, really, of how unprofessional this football club has been for multiple seasons now. I was fully supportive of them looking around, but it had to get to the point where if you're going to do this, you've got to do this seriously. You can't just half do it again and risk having a player come back who doesn't want to be there, along with Christian Petrarca, who doesn't want to be there as well. Yeah, this is ugly.
And it's the same with Cozzy Pickett, who continually talks,
really,
around to friends and family. I'd like to play here. I want to be traded there. And Cozzy does, we've said before, does do this dance almost annually. And he comes back to Melbourne, where he loves the football club, and there's never a drama. Melbourne absolutely resolute that Cozzy Pickett will be with them. But still, it's the conversations from him to friends and family that just keep it alive. But again, I think that one's going nowhere. So you've potentially got three. I mean, the two are, Petrarca and Oliver, are more serious than Cozzy Pickett. But you potentially got three players there who have, flirted or more than flirted with the idea of playing at other clubs, who are going to be held and are going to be playing with Melbourne next year at this stage, and all the chemistry difficulties associated with that.
Yeah, premierships are hard to win, and to win a premiership, usually your football department, your board, you're really stable, you're well led, the players have great connection together, and it is a happy place to be. Usually, very, very rarely would a team win a premiership where everyone is not moving in the same direction. Melbourne are not moving in the same direction, and there's people over in one side, like Gary Pert, reportedly trying to orchestrate some list management moves. You've got the coach on a different page, reportedly, to the CEO. You've got three players who've just told me, and three of their best players, three of their top five players who don't want to be there. It's a complete dumpster fire, what is happening at Melbourne right now.
The theme for today, swings and misses in the trade period. We're talking a lot about clubs who are landing players in this trade period, Kane, and free agency period. What about the clubs who, were left at the altar when they missed out? So I've quickly scribbled a lot of names down here. Some of them are historical, and some nominations coming through. I reckon Lance Franklin GWS was one of the biggest swings and misses ever, to the point where the AFL were filthy. They were livid that they didn't get their man to the Giants out of the Hawks. That was one of the biggest misses.
Yeah,
that hurt.
Huge miss. That one hurt. We speak about the Buddy Franklin one every trade radio period.
Yep.
Still
amazing.
Still my favourite.
Dustin Martin, been burnt by a few. North Melbourne came hard. GWS, the hard hat scenes. He ended up staying at Richmond. That was a real sliding doors moment. Andrew Gaffin, North Melbourne. That was a huge swing and a huge miss.
Huge one. They had a real go, didn't they? They were desperate to get a wingman for so long. Probably for West Coast, that was one that would have been a win for them to let him go. But they opted to almost match, or certainly got him a huge pay increase. North Melbourne have been great for other players who have stayed at their clubs to increase their value. We've just seen that with Jack Viney. North Melbourne come. Jack probably got an extra $100,000 and 2 more years on top of the contract that he probably wouldn't have got if not for North Melbourne's interest. So they continue to be a blessing for player managers and players that are just looking for, not really want to leave, but just a pay increase.
Josh Kelly was another one.
Another one.
Yep. Okay. Jonathan Brown, Collingwood. That one was big. Eddie sold the vision, sold the farm. They couldn't quite get Brownie over the line. his sense of loyalty. He stayed at Brisbane. Nathan Buckley was effectively in the door at North Melbourne as a kid.
Right.
They had him just about done, but that won't bore people with the detail. He was zoned, obviously, to Brisbane, but there was a 12-month period there where they could North could backdate the signing, and Brisbane had to decide within 12 months whether they were going to act on this zone kid. Now, in that 12 months, Bucks won everything. He exploded. He won McGarry medals. He won absolutely everything. And Brisbane said, oh, maybe we better take this guy. So North were like, we missed out on him. Travis Cloak, Fremantle, we mentioned earlier, backed up half a dozen trucks. Eddie dirtied up. He was superimposed in Fremantle jumpers, the whole bit. Gee, the Dockers came hard for him. I reckon that was 2012, somewhere around there, and it was $1 million a season then, the offer. It was big,
and just
big
on
money.
that, like Port Adelaide had a real crack at getting Matthew Pavlich, a real go, because they made one of the biggest recruiting errors of all time. Both Port Adelaide and the Crows, you could target one 17-year-old at the time, and both said, nah, they're worried about his shoulders, so they didn't take him at the time. Next year he goes to Fremantle early stage of the draft. Tried to get him back, and he was half keen, but I reckon there's at least one premiership for Adelaide if Pavlich plays sort of that 2006 era, and there's certainly one for Port Adelaide through that 02-03 era if Pavlich is in that side. So that was a big swing and a big miss.
It shows you how important this time of the year is. This is the list, thanks to Estimate One. Give us your nominations on the IMAR text line, 0426 307 511. IMAR, trusted by tradies for insurance. Call 13IMAR today. Rob's text in. Jamie Elliott touring Brisbane a few years ago. And then this one, history would have been very, very different if Tom Lynch chose Collingwood over Richmond. That was a big flashpoint in an off-season as well. Travis Boak might have been the most public with Geelong flying in. They got busted at the airport, tried to get this guy home, and he stayed at Port Adelaide. Well, Geelong don't miss on too many. And this was one that they definitely missed on. They were chips in on him.
They were. Tommy Wren was the one at the airport with the doorstop, got them.
Right.
All their players.
How excited would he have been?
In their big baggy shorts and tracksuits. That vision lives on.
That lit up the footy world, that one. What about Dylan Shield? They flew him up the Blues to Noosa, the private jet, a meeting with Stephen Silvani. They thought they had him even right up until the last hour of deadline day, and in the end, he chose the Bombers. That was a big one.
How many had a crack at Chris Judd? Who was in the Chris Judd?
Melbourne,
right? Because he was going around.
I think Hawthorn.
So there's a couple.
Collingwood?
There's a couple that swung hard for Juddy. In the end, he landed at the Blues.
Chose Vizzy.
But yeah, there was some clubs having a real good go at him.
What about Joshy Dunkley? Essendon. That was a standoff for a long, long period of time. He wanted to go to Essendon. He said, take me to Essendon, make me a Bomber. The Dogs held him, and the next year, I think it was, he went to Brisbane. How different life would have been for Josh Dunkley if he got his way and went to Essendon, who missed.
Nah, it would have been completely different, one of those sliding doors moments.
It's a big list, isn't it? Tom Papley, Blues, they came hard and missed.
There's a lot on this list.
Would have been a good
Your
pickup.
list.
Jacob Wiedering more recently at the Saints. Tyson Stengel chased by the Saints and the Bombers. And the Saints again for Geordie de Goey when they made a very, very compelling, almost an offer that you couldn't refuse.
And then
that was that big.
Collingwood sort of half-matched that. The Saints with Zach Merritt recently, just not a full swing, but just a half swing for him. So, yeah, the Saints have been active, but haven't been able to get it done.